Hi, this is your host, Laura Powers, and I'm so pleased today to have Sandy Forster on the show. She is a money mindset mentor, and we're recording here. I'm in Colorado, and Sandy is in Australia, in Queensland, which is really fun. So thanks so much for connecting with us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Laura. I really appreciate it.
You can hear all the birds singing in the background. I love it.
Yeah, early morning, they're all waking up, singing their songs.
Amazing. So for those who aren't familiar with your work, I'd love if you could just give us kind of an overview of you, your story, and your background.
Sure. Well, I guess the short story of the background is I met a boy in high school. I was about, I think, 16. We went out for about 10 years. Then we got married, and I had a 6-month-old and a 3-year-old, and we divorced. So at the time, what I was doing was I had kind of a hobby business. So it was around when aerobics was really starting to kick in, and I was designing and manufacturing swim and gym wear. And as I said, it was just a hobby. It was something that, I'd buy nice Lycra, and then I'd come home and I had my sewing machine set up in the garage, and I would sew all these nice, pretty leotards and swimwear. And then over summer, I would find an empty shop down by the beach, and I'd put all my swimwear in there and I'd sell it. So it just brought us some money to maybe put in a swimming pool one year, or go on a holiday another year, or buy some new furniture. And as I said, it was just, a hobby business, and it was really just giving us some pocket money. So when I divorced, that business suddenly had to be my full-time income. Like it had to sustain me completely, and it wasn't enough. And I tried to make it into a real business, but I was so not a business person. And to be honest, I still don't consider myself to be a traditional business person these days. I feel like I'm just a very creative person who happens to make money doing what I love. But anyway, back then what happened was I was really trying to make that my income, trying to pay for everything. But it really didn't. It basically paid, I think, for my electricity, it paid for my car, but it paid for food, but anything over and above that, it didn't. So I actually was going backward financially very quickly, and I ended up $100,000 in debt and on welfare. And at the time, welfare was in US dollars, it was probably around $7,500 a year.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's not very much.
No, you
by
just go
anyone's
backwards.
standards.
Yeah, welfare isn't meant to, even keep you sustained. It really, you just go backwards, and particularly when you've got 2 kids. So I was really, really struggling. And as I said, ended up $100,000 in debt and on welfare, and really did not know what on earth I was going to do with my future, because I kept thinking, well, even if I get an amazing job, like a mind-blowing job where I make over $100,000, like I'm going to be paying that off for the rest of my life. So like I'm just not going to get ahead. So I was really lucky that I went to see this guy. Now, I don't know what he was. I don't think he was a career person, but he kind of helped you get your life on track. I can't remember what he was advertised as, but he did something a little bit like hypnotherapy, and he got me relaxed and got me to think about what I enjoyed, and just asked me all these different questions. And when I came out of it, he said, "So what came up for you?" And I said, "Well, the only thing that really came up for me was personal development, but I'm never going to do that as a business," because in my mind, I thought, well, the only 2 things you can do when it came to personal development were write a book, which I was never going to do, or speak in front of groups, which there was no way, because not only was I, and still am, an introvert, but super, super shy. So it was like, that was never going to happen. So anyway, I left there thinking, oh my gosh, how on earth can anyone make any money in personal development except those things? Funnily enough, about 2 or 3 weeks later, I saw this tiny little ad in the local paper, and it was literally like, an inch by an inch. It was tiny. But these words jumped out at me, and it said personal development, it said strong work ethic, and money. I don't know what else it said, but those 3 things jumped out at me. I was like, oh my gosh. Anyway, I looked into it, and it was selling a personal development course. And that personal development course was based on the law of attraction. And that was the very first time I was introduced to the law of attraction. Previously, I completely understood positive thinking. I was obsessed with reading books or going to seminars or learning about positive thinking because, when you're positive, more positive things can happen in your life. But this was my first introduction to the law of attraction. It was like, it literally blew my mind. It was like, oh my gosh, like I can focus and think about what I want, and it can be created from nothing. Like, it was like, whoa, I just couldn't believe it. But the best part about that was I love daydreaming. I love thinking about what I could do. But previously, when I thought about those things, also going on in my mind at the time was, oh, that's never going to happen. I can't see how that will occur. I'll never make any money. I'll always be broke. Whereas when I discovered the law of attraction, I understood I could focus on what I want. I could still have those beautiful daydreams and visualizations and all those things that got me inspired and excited, but just leave out the negative side, leave out the doubting, leave out all of that. And I would be actually putting an order into the universe for what I wanted, and I could attract it back. So I completely dived into the law of attraction, absolutely loved it. And this is going back about 20 years now, it would be. Loved it completely, and found that my financial situation started to turn around, and I was just couldn't believe it. Like, I started making really good money. Things were really looking up. I was like, wow, I got this nailed. And then the owner of the company had a dispute with the printer and said, you're not printing the product correctly. Because I was actually, not only did I discover this product, I was marketing this product because I loved it so much. And so, it became my income. So, but what happened was as I said, the company had a dispute with the printer and said, we are not paying you for this product because you printed it wrong, reprint it. And the printer said, well, we're not going to reprint it till you pay for the product initially, and then we'll reprint it. And they were in a deadlock for about 8 months. So it started off at 1 week and 2 weeks. And when you're in a direct sales business, if you don't have a product to sell, you don't have a business. You don't have an income. So all of a sudden, my income, like the thing that I thought was going to save me, disappeared. And it was like, So I was so stressed around that. And it's like, how did I create this? Like, what am I doing wrong? But it was around that time that I realized, okay, there's 2 parts to the puzzle. And this is what I love to teach others. There's the mindset side, absolutely. And what you focus on is what you create. But there's also the practical side. And when you marry the practical with the metaphysical, I believe that's where the magic happens. And
absolutely.
So I totally dived into not only the law of attraction, but learning practical ways how to create abundance. Because previously, when I divorced my husband, when we were divorced, I ended up, I think it was about with $180,000 in like a property settlement. And that sounds like a lot of money, but by the time you pay the lawyer, which was around, I think, 30 or 40,000, and then I had to buy back my car that I'd been given for Mother's Day, that was another 20,000. What I was left with was just enough to, put into buying a house. So I bought this house, but what happened was I ended up, because I didn't have the income at that time, I ended up having to sell the house. I lost money on the house. I put my money into shares and stocks, and that all just went down really fast. I put my money into an investment club and lost all of that. I put money into a business and basically all my money just disappeared. So I lost everything. So that was why once I discovered the law of attraction, and still had a bit of an issue with going into a business that ended up folding, I realized that I really needed to learn the practical side and the metaphysical. So I really dived into that. I dived into both. And so it was really interesting because then I ended up, because I was, didn't have this personal development product to sell anymore. It was before I'd started an online business. And so I was really kind of wondering what I could do. And I discovered this thing called life coaching. I borrowed the money, put it on my credit card to go through my coach training, and fell in love with the idea. And I have to be perfectly transparent, perfectly honest here. I did not fall in love with the idea of helping other people. That wasn't why I initially got into coaching. I got into coaching because I needed to save myself. Like, I was the one that was struggling. I was the one that had no money, that was frustrated and scared and angry and yelling at my kids. I was the one that needed to be helped. So I got into coaching because it was the personal development industry. And because I felt like, well, this thing called coaching, I could work from home. I could choose my own hours. I could, if I traveled, I could still be working. It didn't matter where you worked from. I could make as much money as I wanted. And again, I was in the personal development industry. And what I found was by becoming a coach, I very quickly built a very successful business, because it was around that time that I also dived into the practical side of building a business through the internet. And by combining those two things, I found my business just took off. And the other thing I did with my coaching practice was I brought law of attraction into every session. And I absolutely loved the fact that my clients then were getting really great results really quickly, because it wasn't just the practical side of coaching and listening to what their goals were and sort of supporting them that way. It was bringing in all law of attraction processes, and it really made a difference. And so very quickly I kind of transitioned out of one-on-one coaching, which as a kind of ADHD, very disorganized person, was really hard to schedule in appointments and be on time and remember to do them, because I'd get sidetracked and forget, and I was a hopeless one-on-one coach. So I transitioned very quickly into group coaching, and I love that. I love the fact that I could affect a whole lot of people at the same time. It really helped me in my business, because I'd only do an hour a week with a whole lot of people instead of, lots of hours throughout the week. And so, that happened. And then all of a sudden I was using all my strategies and processes in my business. And then I ended up having an accountant, my own accountant, come to me and say, I want to partner with you because I know you're great at doing this. And anyway, we partnered up. We started promoting a course. It was a very practical course. And about 8 or 9 months into it, I said to her, I've got this great idea. You've got all the practical information through this home study course and everything that you know about finance and money and, all the practical stuff. But I think we need to create a program that incorporates all the law of attraction into it as well, because that's where people really have the mindset shift for things to change. And so basically we launched this program, and within a matter of about 4 months launched it and made close to $2 million, because it was, I guess it was, and don't quote me because I could be wrong, but I think that it was the first women's only mentoring program in the world. So this was back in 2003. I know every man and his dog has a mentoring program for women these days, but back then there was really nothing. And it was called Wildly Wealthy Women. And we would mentor people over the phone. She'd do all the practical, I'd do all the mindset. In group sessions, we had something like 650 women join the program. And it was just amazing, the success that we had through that. And then I ended up writing a book, and then I ended up launching my own life coach training academy, and I train and certify people all around the world to be internationally certified law of attraction coaches. And I look back at what I've created, and all of it came from understanding that, as I said before, when you marry the metaphysical with the practical, absolute magic can happen. And it all starts with really being mindful and aware of what your thoughts are, and trying to just leave out all the negative stuff, leave out all the doubts, leave out all the self-talk, and just focus on what it is that you want. And when you focus on what you want, and then when you align, and this is something I teach all my students, when you align body, mind, and spirit, that's when you really get the success that you want. And when I say body, mind, and spirit, I mean when you're taking the right actions, when you're thinking the right thoughts, and you're feeling the feelings as if it's happened. When you're aligning all of that, that's again when the magic can happen. So kind of that's it in a nutshell. I mean, obviously since then I've done other things, come up with other ideas that have literally made me millions of dollars just out of the blue. And I'm very much something that I also teach my students is there's a thing called ready, aim, fire. So ready is kind of coming up with the idea and getting things planned, and aim is getting it all right and perfect and making sure everything's just right to go. And then fire is taking action, getting it done, like making it happen. But I actually teach ready, fire, aim. So ready is come up with the idea, fire is just do it, and then aim is fixing it up and tweaking and making it better later, because too often people get stuck in the making things perfect and making sure they're doing it right and making sure everything's just, how it should be. and they never get around to actually taking the action. And I'm very big on, as I said before, taking action is a big part of the puzzle.
I'm so with you on that, the part about taking action. And I think, unfortunately, in the sort of woo-woo metaphysical community, sometimes this idea of like, you just call it in and you don't have to do anything and it should just show up. And I'm like, actually, yeah, no, you definitely have to do your piece. And that often involves taking physical steps. And one of the pieces I've gotten psychically is that sometimes the physical steps that we take have nothing to do with what ends up coming in, but it's basically showing the universe, yes, I'm committed. I'm going to do my part. I'm going to, take action to make my dream happen, because I will take action and then something comes out of left field that's not connected directly with my action on a physical level, but energetically, I always feel that it is. So it's really important even to use the law of attraction, but to actually take the steps, take the classes, do the work. And I completely agree with you about like just diving in. And so many people get in that analysis paralysis, like I have to do it perfectly, or what's exactly my message. And the truth is, from my perspective as a successful entrepreneur, is that a lot of times you can't even literally figure that out till you start.
Yeah.
You can't figure out what is going to work till you're actually already in the game on the ground. If you're just in this theoretical thing, like you just can't figure it out until you get going. So I think that is a really, really good point. So, and I think this is an interesting time because I feel like actually a lot of people are being guided to start businesses. Like
Yes.
their work was taken away. And this happened for me, like starting my psychic business happened during the recession when my work just went away. Like I'd always had jobs, and I'd frequently had like 2 or 3 jobs. Like I was always busy working, but it always came externally. And I feel like the energies have shifted, and a lot of people are being guided to realize you can create this yourself. You don't need a company outside of you. You don't need a boss. You don't need all those things. You can be self-directed and create, but it is scary. So how did you make that transition from like being an employee to like, okay, I'm going to do this on my own? And what were some of the strategies that you used to be successful?
I guess for me, even though I didn't realize it at the time, I'd always been somewhat of an entrepreneur. So I remember being in high school, and in my sewing classes, I would make these pairs of shorts. Now I live on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland, Australia. It's super, super casual. Weather's always nice and warm, except in winter. Get a little bit cold. So I would used to make these shorts and take them down to the local store down by the beach, and they would put them on consignment. And that was my kind of very first foray into being an entrepreneur. Mind you, it never worked out, because every time I went in to collect money, they always say, oh, there's been a couple of pairs stolen. And I don't think I ever actually ended up getting any money for them. But from that, I guess for me, I loved the freedom. I loved, like, for when I was at school, I remember thinking, oh my gosh, imagine being able to, at the time, work and, have all that freedom. I didn't realize that work meant you went somewhere at a certain time and you had to stay there all day long, and then you finished at a certain time and you did not own your time. So when I got in my first job, I was working at the local library. The thing I loved about that was the library was over the road from the beach, and I would go down the beach in my lunch hour and swim in the ocean and lay in the sun. So, I loved that job. But as I said, when I started my aerobics business, when I started, making gym wear and swimwear, that came from realizing that, yes, while I loved working in the library, I loved being surrounded by books. I loved reading books. I learned to cover books and read them at the same time, like cover a book and have a book on the side and read it, so I could cover books without even looking at them, because I loved reading so much. But what I discovered was when that aerobic era hit, I decided that I wanted to teach aerobics. So because I'd been, at the local gym, the person who taught the weights classes was away one day, but because I'd been going there all the time, they asked me to fill in, and I sort of got this taste of, oh, you can do something you really enjoy doing and get paid for it. Even though I didn't get paid for doing that, I was just sort of filling in. I realized that I could do something that I really enjoyed. And so I started teaching aerobics classes, and that was my first business, and that was in my 20s. And so I started teaching aerobics, and I love that because people would come to my class, pay me, I think at the time it was probably about like $3 a class. They would pay me this money and I would have all this cash. And it was like, I felt like a millionaire. Like people were actually giving me cash. When you work in a job and you get a paycheck every week, go from that to actually people giving you money and you've got all this money. It's like, wow, you feel like a millionaire, even though it wasn't very much money, you just feel like a millionaire. So, but that gave me the freedom because I would do classes in the morning and I would do classes in the evening. But I remember telling my family that I was going to quit my job. They were flabbergasted. Like, my family had never had businesses or been involved in businesses in any way. They had always had jobs. My mum and dad had jobs right through to, their I think 60s. And so the idea that I was going to quit a job to start doing something for myself, they couldn't wrap their head around that. But I love the freedom of doing the aerobics classes in the morning, doing the aerobics classes in the evening, and having all day to do what I wanted, which at the time I was actually sewing swim and gym wear and starting that business on the side. So it was really challenging at the start because I felt like I was going out into starting a business, being an entrepreneur. I didn't think of myself as an entrepreneur. I just thought of myself as doing something that I really liked, and I just happened to make money from it. But yeah, it was challenging because I didn't have any role models in that way at all. It was just something completely new, and everyone thought that I was being a bit of a deadbeat for quitting my job. But it was like absolutely the best thing I've ever done because, the aerobics and making gym wear led to then, becoming a coach, and then all the things that I've done since then. And as you say, you take a step and it doesn't necessarily mean, because when I became a coach, I didn't think to myself, okay, I'm going to be a coach and this is going to be my career for the rest of my life. I just started coaching because I just felt drawn to being in the personal development industry and having a bit of freedom in my life and in my business. And that one decision to be a coach then led to me writing a book and then starting a life coach training academy, then creating online courses and programs, and then, training people and being a speaker and doing all these things that, I thought I was going from kind of one point to another point, but I've been led all over the place, and my life has just, I've sort of created this amazing business that there was no part of me when I was $100,000 in debt and on welfare and I first heard about coaching thought that I would end up at. Like, there was no part of me that thought, oh, I'm going to start coaching because this is going to take me down this path and then I'm going to be a millionaire with a business doing all these things. None of that even crossed my mind. So I think, like you said, people have just got to, when they feel something is right, they've just got to take that action, because when they take one action, the universe will reveal the next action or the next path or the next direction. We don't know what's coming, but if you stay stuck, you never see what's coming. Whereas if you take one step, then you can see what's in front of you and you just keep moving and moving and moving forward.
Yeah, I've been shown that a lot psychically, where literally people are like, I want to see the whole staircase, and spirit's like, we just show you the next step, like literally. And there's reasons for that. One of them is that if you see the whole thing, you're going to be like, hell no, I can't do all that. That's crazy, because you haven't shifted enough yet. So just, take that first step and then trust the process that, the next steps will be clear and that you'll be supported there. The other thing you brought up is, that, you didn't have, come from a family of entrepreneurs, or you didn't have people in your circle that could guide you. And one of the things I feel very strongly is it's so important to get mentors, to get a circle, join groups, join classes, so that you're not alone. Because that same thing, like I was like, and when I started, a lot of family members and, friends, people that I was close with at the time, I think they thought I was just basically a little Looney Tunes and wasting my time, and I don't blame them. I mean, this is definitely what you're taught. You go, you get the job, you do the thing. But then the farther I got along on my path and I started to have some successes, then I think people were like, oh, okay, well, maybe not as much Looney Tunes as I thought. But it's important to get in the circle, and specifically find mentors that are doing what you want to do. Like, it doesn't have to be the exact business, but at least the same kind of business area, business model, type of business, or topic of business, just so that you can see it modeled for you. And every business is different. So, I have struggled with business trainings that were very analytical, technically oriented. And I'm like, as a psychic, it just doesn't work for me. So finding mentors, community in your area, I think is really, really helpful.
I
Coaches, all of
totally
that.
agree. Yeah. Finding someone that you resonate with that has created the success that you are aspiring to is just going to cut your learning curve, your time curve, your expense curve so much. Like quite often,
Yeah.
I know people hear about finding a mentor, and they kind of think sometimes it's like that old fashioned way of find a mentor who's being where you want to be and they're retired and sit down with them every week and have a chat. It's like, no, 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 no. I always say find a mentor. It could be reading their books. It could be listening to their podcast. It could be taking part in all their free stuff. And then as soon as you start to follow their advice, when you start to get a bit of success or finance behind you, then join their mentoring program or join their go to their seminar or take part in their membership program. Like, if you find someone you resonate with, you are going to totally create success so much quicker when you've got that support, when you've got that person to tap into, to ask questions of. Because to me, that's the biggest roadblock for most people. They start to take action, but then they're not sure if this is the right thing or they should do that thing, and they're trying to figure it out on their own, and then they take this action and then it's not right and they've wasted time and money, so then they take this action. But if you've got a mentor, you can ask them and they can guide you. They're not necessarily going to say you must do this, but they will guide you and tell you from their perspective what mistakes they made around that or what worked for them. And so you really can speed up your success. So I totally am with you on that one. Absolutely find yourself a mentor that you resonate with and a community that you resonate with, and tap into it, and it will really help you so much. I know for me, it absolutely did. And I think for me, it was interesting because I'm here in Australia, and a lot of the people that I really admired and looked up to and followed were in the US. I think Australia was kind of a little bit behind on the whole,
Personal development
online business thing
oh
happening,
yeah.
and even
Yeah.
coaching. When I said I was a coach, because I went through the very first intake of coaches in Australia, and when I told people I was a life coach, they thought I was a surf life-saving coach down the beach. Like they couldn't quite wrap their head around what a
Right.
life coach was. So my business was I kind of tapped into people in America. And one of the people that I really resonated with was Mark Victor Hansen, the guy that wrote those Chicken Soup for the Soul books. And I think they've sold close to 100 million now. So a lot of books. But I really resonated with him. And he used to have live, what they call mega events, about 3 times a year, a mega book event, a mega marketing event, a mega speaking event. And I would go to his events. And I remember going to his events, the first time I saw him on stage, and he's standing up there and he's talking about something, and then he gets sidetracked and talked about something else, and then he kind of went over this direction, talked about something else, and then he came back and got back on track. And I'm sitting there looking at him thinking, oh my gosh, this guy is a multimillionaire. He's so successful in business, but he's got a brain like mine. He doesn't stay on track. He's not a normal thinking, this is, logical sort of person. He's like all over the place. And I'm thinking, if he can do it, I can do it. And he just inspired me so much to understand that I didn't need to become this very structured, professional business person to have a business that worked. I could be me and just bring all of my energy and my passion and who I really was into my business. And the people that were attracted to that would become my clients and my community and my students. And that was just so inspiring to me. So yeah, he was one of my very first mentors that I just absolutely loved. And so again, find yourself a mentor because it will save you so much time.
Yeah, I see this a lot of times where people like, I don't have the money, or, it's just, I'm just going to try it on my own. And it's like, okay, you can do it, but yeah, it's going to take a lot longer. You're going to struggle more financially. And I have found consistently that the more money I put into personal development, professional development, mentors, getting in the room, so to speak, the faster my business grows. And I remember that one of the first courses I took, and so this was a psychic course in Hawaii, and it was, trying to remember, but I think with accommodation and the course, I think it was close to $10,000. And I remember just being like, oh,
Wow.
like that was so much money for me at the time. But I just took that leap, and boy, did it come back to me so many times. And, just last year, I spent about 20K in professional development, and it was also my best year ever financially. So it's really important that you look at it as an investment and think about like, how is this going to come back to me versus like, this is just money out. I think that's one of the things I see people thinking, like, they just think like, this is money out, and then I don't get anything for it. It's like, no, I mean, if you're taking the right program, then it will come back to you that and many more times over, like a good investment would. But just like you brought up, there are investments that don't turn out, and there are those that do. So I really encourage everyone to listen to intuition. I see this is something that's coming up with people where they will feel to do something, they get excited, and then they like kind of chicken out. And
Yeah.
I feel that almost always your first like inclination is the right inclination. And then you get the logical mind taking over, the doubts, the fears, and everything creepy. So I'm just getting to say that what I found is, in terms of intuition, in terms of guided messages, it's almost always the first whatever you feel is the right one. And it's the whatever is afterwards. That's the sort of questioning part. Do you feel that as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, that kind of almost comes back to the ready, fire, aim. You find an opportunity or an idea or a course or a program or a mentor, and you feel like that burst of excitement inside. It's like, take action, do it. Don't let the fears and doubts talk you out of it. And I think that's one of the reasons I've also been so successful, is the fact that I people might call it impulsive. But when I see a course or a program or a mentor or a membership or a seminar or anything that I feel like I get that feeling that I want to do it, I just do it. I just sign up and do it. And even when I was $100,000 in debt, when I heard about life coaching, I signed up straight away. Now, I didn't have the money. I'm $100,000 in debt. I'm on welfare. It was $3,000 20 years ago, which was a freaking fortune. Like, it was so much money. But I put it on my credit card because I just felt, even though I had my mind was like, I don't even know what a coach does. Can I be a coach? But I just felt like I should do it. And I took that action. And so, yeah, I think people just need to not only find the mentor, not only take the action and, join their community or the program or the course, but they need to apply what they learn. Because quite often people, that they'll either do three things. So the first thing is they'll either find someone or a course or a program they want to do, and they'll think it's the right thing. But then, as you say, their mind kicks in and they come up with all the reasons why they shouldn't, and they don't. So they just miss out completely. Two, they take part and they learn a whole lot of great stuff and they become really knowledgeable, but they don't take any action and they don't really get any change. That's the second thing. And the third thing, and these are the people I love working with, are the people who find the mentor, the course, the program, whatever it is, they sign up, they take action, and they get results. And they're the people that become like the shining example of what's possible. And the thing is, everyone can do that. And the reason I say this is, I had a course, I've still got the course, the Inspired Spirit Coaching Academy, where I train people to be law of attraction coaches. But this one intake, I think it was 2010 or so, 2011, around there. And I had, all these coaches take part. And I remember, and this is really embarrassing to say, but I remember there's this little offshoot of about, I don't know, 4 or 5 coaches within that intake that started their own little Facebook group. And they invited another coach into the group who actually really liked me and was doing well. So this other coach is in that group, and all these original coaches are talking and saying bad stuff about me, about, how the program's no good and how they're never going to be able to make money and blah, blah, blah. And they're all so negative. And this one coach she kind of stepped out because she didn't want to be in that energy. And she said, I don't know if you know this is happening. And she took a screenshot of all the things that these coaches had said about me. And I'm like heartbroken and feeling so terrible. And oh my gosh, maybe my course is tragic and maybe it doesn't work. And what am I doing? But then I think about, well, hang on a minute. You know, look at all the people that have actually created success. And then I look at one of the coaches from that same intake who has gone on now. Her name's Denise Duffield-Thomas. She's now gone on.
She's one of yours. I love her. Yeah.
So she's created, you know, her business now is doing, I think, about $2 or $3 million a year. And she's from the same intake. And that's how she started. I remember her very first month she came to me and she said, you know, she'd made $225 that month. And she was so excited because she'd made $225. And now look where she is. And I realized that, you know, again, it all comes back to action. It all comes back to mindset. Some people will choose to let fear rule them and stop them from creating what's possible. And other people will just step into it and make it happen. And they're the people I love working with. So as I said, there's 3 types of people. The one who doesn't even take the action to start with, the one who learns a lot but doesn't take the action, and the one who takes the action to join and takes the action from what they learned. They're the ones that are going to create their true magic in their life.
Yeah, and I think this is so important that when you're guided to take a course, to really be receptive and be open. And sometimes what you're there to learn isn't what the course is even about. Like I've been guided to take classes. I felt that excitement and I signed up. And then as the course got going, I was like, wow, maybe I know some of this stuff or it doesn't necessarily resonate, but maybe how they structure the course is what I'm there to get. Like, you know, it's just important for us to be open to like, okay, what is it that I'm being drawn to this for? Or I've had times when I signed up for a course and like, I've got a bunch of clients from the course. Like it was literally, you know, so it's just really important to just pay attention and honor that message and then not get into that really negative mindset. You know, I think that negative mindset, criticism and judgment, what I've found, whether it's to yourself or others, is not serving. It's
not at all.
Dark energy. It's not constructive. And so if you find yourself in that pattern, just ask, okay, what is it that I'm being guided to learn or shift out of this? And then maybe there's a lesson, that's fine. But when you get into that negative kind of mudslinging or, you know, criticizing yourself, like, what was I thinking? Whatever that is, it's just so unhelpful.
It is. It totally is. And the thing is, when you start to go down that path, you'll just attract more of that into your life.
You know, exactly. Instead of like, you know, and so if you're experiencing that, either if you're offering something people that way, just be like, okay, this is the time to exert boundaries, or, you know, on the other hand, you know, don't engage with that with others into that kind of like critical stuff. I just don't feel like it helps the situation.
Yeah. And I always say that every course, every program, every book, everything that you do, you may already know a lot of it. You may have heard it before, but there's always going to be one seed of something in there that could transform your life if you let it. But when you come in and then you start looking for what's not working, you miss that. You miss that one thing, because it could be filled with everything that you already know. It could be filled with stuff that you're not interested in, but there's always going to be one thing in there that could completely transform your life, your business, your entire future. And you've got to be, like you say, you've got to be open for that. You've got to be open to the possibilities.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of times people are looking for these massive leaps. Like they're like wanting the course, the program, whatever the opportunity that's gonna be like, I'm gonna go from like here to 1,000 or whatever at once. And here's the truth that I have found from my psychic work is that even if that appears to be the case, it's probably that there's been all this stuff going on, all this learning under the surface, all these tools and stuff that you've learned, so that when you hit that one thing, you're able to skyrocket like that. So it only kind of appears that way for us, like that idea of like an overnight success. And you're like, yeah, except for like the 20 years that they were working before they got that big break, you know? And so I just think it's really important to keep that in mind. Like, yes, want the big leaps. It's possible, but at the same time, keep doing the work and doing those like incremental upgrades, incremental bits of information that are really going to help you, so that when you do get that opportunity to jump big, you're ready and you can, and you have all the tools for it.
Exactly. Because it's all about, I was creating the last module for, you know, I'm updating my millionaire mindset experience, and I was creating the last module yesterday, And this was exactly what I was touching on, is that people sometimes look at me and think, oh, wow, she, made $1 million overnight. But they don't look at all the things that I did, all the days, the weeks, the months, the years of visualizations and affirming and creating vision boards and doing all the different processes and exercises I could to rewire my brain and diving into the neuroscience and doing all of those things, so that I was changing who I was from someone who was $100,000 in debt and struggling around money. I was changing at a cellular level. I was changing body, mind, and spirit. I was changing, so that when that opportunity came, I was ready and open for it and able to accept it. It was all that work that I'd done prior to that that allowed that to happen. And so I always teach people, if as long as you take one step every day toward what it is that you want, toward your goal, toward your dream, toward your desire, you've got to take that action. If you take one step, one action every day, then you will get there. It will happen. And it may seem like it's going to happen overnight. It may actually happen overnight, but you've done all this work beforehand. But as long as you're doing something every single day, what happens is, as you take that step toward what you desire, the universe is taking a step toward you with what you desire. So it will come so much quicker if you're doing the work. So, all this stuff's going on behind the scenes. The universe is going to bring it to you at the right time. You've got to believe it. You've got to align yourself vibrationally, energetically with it. You've got to take action, and you've got to really feel that it's possible. When you do those things and you continue to focus on what you desire, it has to come. It's universal law. Universal law doesn't go, well, I think it's going to work for Laura and it'll work for Sandy, but it's not going to work for you over there. You don't deserve it. It doesn't work like that. It's going to work for everybody. So you've got to just keep doing the work, and you're changing who you are at a cellular level to become the person you need to be, so that when the opportunity comes, you see it and you're able to take action and you're able to get this amazing result.
No, I think that's really a great point. And I love the analogy for us of the bamboo plant. So, the bamboo plant, nothing appears to be happening for like a year, for certain types of bamboo anyway. Like from the surface, there's literally nothing going on, but what's happening is it's developing a very elaborate and very strong root structure. And then when it does break the surface, it grows so fast, like incredibly fast. And so I think that's what happens for a lot of people, is they're doing all this internal work and they're not getting visible results in their life immediately. And so they're just like, this isn't working. And I see this, a lot of people, they're on the verge of a major breakthrough. And that's when that urge or desire to stop gets so strong. And it's like, wait, just you're almost there where you're about to see the results. And so just don't give up, keep going. It's about to just take off like a rocket, take off so fast if you just have that patience and check internally and see if what's happening, and rather than just looking at the external signs immediately.
Yeah, totally. And I like what you said then about, they're just on the verge of it all happening and they give up. And I always tell people, just imagine there's you, a little stick figure inside a circle, and everything inside that circle is the physical. It's what you can see, touch, taste, and hear. And everything outside of the circle is the metaphysical. And what happens is, when you have a dream, a desire, or a goal, it goes out through that physical, through that that border, if you will, and out into the metaphysical, and it starts to get created out there. And then what happens is, as it gets closer to you, as it comes and it's about to manifest, it's about to be created, you're about to get that opportunity, you're about to get that phone call, you're about to whatever it is that's going to change everything, you start to get really uncomfortable, because it's about to cross from the metaphysical into the physical, and there is that discomfort. And that's quite often when people go, oh, this isn't going to work, oh, I shouldn't be doing this, oh, and they start to get this fear and they run in the opposite direction. But it's only because what they want is so close, and they're feeling this discomfort. So I totally agree with you. You just got to keep going. Don't give up, because what you want is just around the corner. It's almost here. So if you keep going, magic will happen.
Yeah. And as it relates to that, I often have experienced and seen this with my clients, that not only does it get uncomfortable, but a lot of times it actually feels like things are very bad. Like I'll have a bad day, bad week, bad month. And I've seen this pattern play out enough times that now I'm like, okay, something amazing is coming. What's on its way? So just to give that perspective and not get it too into your head about like, oh, this means I'm doing terribly, or I've
This is a
backtracked, or
sign.
whatever. Yeah, yes, exactly. I know. Here's the thing. I do believe in signs,
So do
but
I.
I think a lot of times people misunderstand
Yeah.
that whole process. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, oh my gosh.
I always say to people, when things go pear-shaped, when things start going wrong, that's the time to get excited, because it just
Yeah.
means there's something coming. There's a shift change happening. There's change happening. It's like there's something in the works. It's like the birthing process. It gets really messy before the good happens. So yeah, just
Yes.
when it all goes wrong, get excited, because it just means the universe is moving you toward what you want.
I have literally felt that. Like, I've literally started to be like, okay, having a bad day or whatever, what's coming? Something great. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
what is, I can already
exactly.
kind of feel the excitement. Well, this has been so fun. Lots of really great gems, I think, for people. Would love to hear if people want to connect with you, what is the best way for them to do that?
The best way would be to go to my website, wildlywealthy.com. But if listeners want something, I've actually put together a money manifesting bundle that's got guided visualizations and some
Great.
affirmations and some really cool tools. So if they go to wildlywealthyfree.com, and they can dive into that and really start rewiring their brain.
I think this is really great. And one of the things I see with manifesting is that I think there's the most positive results, the most impact when we do some kind of manifesting work every day, or at least very regularly. And it's interesting, like on a physical level, like you would not expect to have like a rock star, bodybuilding Olympic bod if you just like went to the gym every few months or
Dabbled
something.
your
But
toe in it. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but somehow I think in the sort of spiritual metaphysical community, there's that expectation that you can just do that. And like you can have some results, but you're going to have even more powerful results if you do this work consistently. So
Yeah,
pretty much
do
every
the
day.
work, do the work. I
Yeah.
totally agree. I mean, a lot of people have probably watched the movie The Secret or read the book, and that whole movie was put together based on many books that Rhonda read, and one of them was The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles, and that was written back in 1910, really old language. But one of the things he says in there is, by thought, the thing you desire is brought to you. So you think
Yeah.
it, you put it out there, and it's brought to you. But he says, by thought, the thing you desire is brought to you, but by action, you receive it. So it's
Yes.
your thought puts it out there into the universe and attracts it back to you, but it's attracted to you in the metaphysical, in the beyond the physical. Like you can't see it, touch it, taste it, but by action you receive it. And when you take that action, then it can come into your physical world, into your life. So, as you say, too many people think in the metaphysical world, in the spiritual world, you can just sit there and your $1 million into your lap. But you have to take action. And when you combine the action with the metaphysical, that's when the magic happens.
Yeah, I think the combination, and then even the metaphysical, doing that regularly as well, like doing
Yeah.
it not in
It's got
just
to
in
be
spurts,
daily,
but
daily,
yeah,
daily,
I say
daily.
daily or almost daily. I do some kind of, even it could be 5 minutes. It doesn't mean that it needs to be this like, oh
Yeah,
my
not the
God, I
whole
have
big
to
process for
meditate for an
hours.
hour. Yeah,
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 no.
yeah. It doesn't have to be that. It could be something small. And sometimes I think the small things we do have a massive impact. Well, this has been so great. Thank you so much. I think that bundle's amazing, and we'll be sure to put the link in the show notes for everybody. Thank you so much for connecting with us, Sandy. What a pleasure. I hope you
Oh,
make it
thank
out
you,
there
Laura.
someday too.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And I love what you're doing. I love women that get out there and really empower other women and help them to see what's possible so that they can create a life that they truly love. So thank you.
Oh, yes, and you too for modeling that. And I really feel like we're in the era of the women,
Yes.
and like it's been era of
Girl
man for a long
power.
time. So it's time to, kind of the pendulum to swing the other way. Not, and men can still be empowered, but it's not that we're taking away from them. But and I really believe that one of the big ways that women are changing and going to change the world is through money and the choices that make with their money. And especially as women, we've often gotten messages that it's not okay to have money, or it's the man that has the money, or it's more important for us to help. And I just think one of the best ways to help is through money, because money is an
Money can make
amazing
such a
tool.
difference. Money can make a huge difference to so many people, especially when you give them, a hand up rather than just a
Yeah,
hand out. I think you can make a true difference in the world.
amazing. Well, it's such a pleasure. Hopefully we can connect again. Thank you so much for talking with us today.
Thank you. Bye, Laura.
And thank you everybody for listening. If you'd like more information about me, you can go to my website, healingpowers.net. You can find me at Twitter at @LauraPowers, Instagram at LauraPowers44, and on Facebook at Healing Powers. Many blessings.